A very good afternoon to everyone present here. It is a pleasure to have you all with us today. As we stand at the intersection of technology, globalization, and rapidly changing consumer expectations, traditional approaches to strategy are being challenged like never before. To remain competitive and navigate the uncertainties of tomorrow's markets, organizations must not only embrace innovation but also foster a culture of disruptive thinking that reimagines the very foundations of their strategic frameworks. This exploration into the future of strategy promises to unveil the strategies, tactics, and paradigms that will define the success in the dynamic business world of tomorrow. And that is exactly our agenda for today. I, Harshi,
and I, Aryan, would like to extend a warm welcome to one and all to Stratonomics 2023, the annual business conclave of Constrat, the consulting and strategy consortium of XIM Bhubaneswar. We, on the behalf of the whole XIM fraternity, would like to render our appreciation to our esteemed speakers, faculty members, guests, media partners, and the fellow students for their presence today. I would now like to walk you through the agenda of the conclave. We will begin with a brief introduction, followed by a talk by our speakers, following which we will proceed to the panel discussion with Q&A from the audience. I would request the students to please note down their questions while the speaker is giving their talk. Now, I would like to give a brief introduction to our Stratonomics 2023 speakers and would request them to accept a small token of appreciation. These industry leaders are here to share their knowledge and practical experience with us. Firstly, we have Mrs. Suparna Singh, Head of Corporate Strategy, Special Projects at Larsen & Toubro. Our next speaker is Mr. Ajay Das, Director of Business Development at Air Products. Our next speaker is Mrs. Farhana Haq, the Senior Director and Cloud Head at Microsoft India. And finally, we have Mr. Vinod Nandakumar, Senior Program Manager at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India. Our moderator of the evening, we have Professor Francis Thomas Castellino, who is the Associate Dean of the Career Advisory Services. Before we commence the event, we will have the auspicious lamp lighting ceremony as a tribute to Goddess Saraswati, inviting our honorable speakers, accompanied by our moderator of the event, to light the lamp. In the presence of our esteemed guests and fellow batchmates, we would like to unveil the official video of Stratonomics 2023.
Most people only pay attention to the final product or the success of an entrepreneur. They say things like, I can never be like them or they got lucky. But what most people don't see is what they had to overcome. All the struggles, the daily rejections, The heartaches, the betrayals, the rumors, the criticism, the empty bank account, those lonely nights trying to make a vision a reality. The only difference between the one who quit and the one who didn't quit is that the one who made it showed up every day. They worked hard every day. They hustled every day. They improved every day. They did all this even though they thought of quitting every day. And eventually, they became who they are today.
On behalf of everyone here, we declare Stratonomics 2023 open.
The topic for today is Future of Strategy, Embracing Non-Traditional Approaches and Disruptive Thinking. In this era of unprecedented connectivity, where information flows freely and industries transform swiftly, the future of strategy demands adaptability. Non-traditional approaches and disruptive thinking are no longer optional, but essential components of survival and prosperity. Businesses that master the art of agility and forward-thinking strategies will not only thrive, but also shape the future of their respective industries. I am delighted to introduce our moderator for the event, Professor Francis Thomas Castellino, an esteemed member of our faculty at XIM Bhubaneswar, where he also serves as the Associate Dean of Career Advisory Services. Sir boasts an impressive professional background with over 3 decades of industry experience, where he has made significant contributions to the field of information technology. His remarkable career is highlighted by numerous publications, and his research interests revolve primarily around human resources information system, enterprise resource planning, as well as business process reengineering and automation. Sir holds prestigious academic achievements, including a PGD PM and a PGD BM, where he earned the distinction of being a double gold medalist at XIM. We would now like to invite him to deliver the opening remarks for the event.
Okay, thank you very much to the anchors and to each and every one of you. I welcome you to this event. The strategy and the effort put in for making this happen is enormous, and I hope you all have a nice time learning from the speakers. We've got some really wonderful speakers today. They represent very, very iconic companies. They have had a varied experience. We have an alum as well. Ajay is an alum of the 94-96 batch. Put your hands together for him. We will hope to have some of you back here as alums maybe down the line. So this is one opportunity where you get to come back to your alma mater. So coming back to the speakers, we've got some very distinguished speakers, a lot of things that they can share with you, and I hope you grab the opportunity to learn from them today. All the very best, and we'll take this forward from here.
Our opening speaker for the Stratonomics 2023 is Mrs. Suparna Singh. Ma'am, with over 5 years of experience as the head of corporate strategy, special projects at Larsen & Toubro, is a seasoned professional in the steel industry. She has worked extensively in the manufacturing and EPC sector along with most of its allied sectors. Her impressive career spanning over 3 decades includes stints at renowned companies like Tata Steel, Esser, and Steel Authority of India Limited. An engineering graduate, she did her post-graduation from the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. She brings a wealth of knowledge in business development, strategic planning, and risk management to her role. Ms. Singh's contributions have played a pivotal role in shaping Larsen and Toubro's success in the corporate landscape. Ma'am, it is a pleasure to have you with us today. The floor is all yours.
Ma'am, before you begin, a quick look at the time that you have, about 15 minutes for each of your topics, all the four of you. And we will have a quick summary after each, and then finally we'll have a set of questions and answers at the end. Students, I would request you to hold your questions till the end. Please make a note of it. We will have time for that at the end. Thank you.
Hi everyone. How many of you are familiar with this game, Fact Game? Wow. So intuitively, you all know how to navigate disruptions. Wonderful. Good afternoon, all of you. When we look all around us, the one thing that we see as changing is everything, right? Okay. So whether it is energy transition, whether it is societal upheavals, geopolitics, technology, dynamics of supply chain, these demands of consumers, everything is undergoing such major changes every year, every quarter. And I'll come to part of that, where what we're doing in energy was the last part of it. And within a short span of, and within a short span of 3 to 5 years, this technological disruptions have happened, which have had humongous changes in our lives. I don't need to elaborate on it because you all are more conversant with this than people of my generation. If you look at the future of business, if you look at the future of business, there are hundreds of trends that are happening all around us, and hundreds of technology changes happening in all parts and different corners of the world. Every industry is getting disrupted. Apart from this, I would also, apart from what you are seeing, I would like to just mention one or two interesting things that are happening even as we speak. Aside from, regarding food processing, if I talk about it, a cell from animal is put into a reactor and we are getting meat out of it, meat without an animal. It's about a sustainable, it adds to sustainable issues. We are talking about growing crops on vertical farms, which solves the issues of land problems, soil, soil contamination, herbicides, pesticides. It acts as a carbon capture mechanism, and it absorbs 99% less water. 3D printed reactor can churn water out of air and hydrate these plants. Humongous things are happening all around us. Finance, ubiquitous, anything and everything can be a financial instrument. Healthcare, gene therapy, the gene editing that's happening, that any bad gene can be can be destroyed and you can replace it with a good gene. 3D printed forms. Transportation mobility, for example, and we have someone here in the transportation sector. But what's happening? Just a snapshot of what's going to happen also is that these EV vehicles, without without a pedal, without a steering wheel, autonomous vehicles, they move around, and they are actually pods which can develop as medical shops, which can develop as clinics, which can develop as gyms. all of this are happening around us, and what I want to tell you is that this is what the word disruption is not only about negative, it's about a lot of other options that are going to come and that are happening around us, and we should actually look at it and welcome it. Disruptors, all of you all are aware of this, and I believe that our first year students, and even before you all have come to this event, you have grown up with these names and the way they have changed the landscape of the industries. The disrupted, and I'll not take much time in going through the case studies in each of them because I'm sure the professors will take you all through these during the course. Interesting part is also how the disruptors are getting disrupted. In the sense that when you are, once you have disrupted an industry, you cannot really sit complacent because someone else somewhere is thinking of a new idea and ways to see how they can go a step further than you. And therefore, when we were just sitting smugly, you have, even in India, the Naman, which is putting together the auto industry together, smart mobility, the EV, which is, like a car on call anytime, Airbnb, which have gone through the recent, news reports, how New York regulations ensuring that people cannot, just any residents cannot, rent out or use out their residential properties. The B2C industries are buying out the B2C, that is the direct to customer, direct to home startups that were there, and there is actually a concern that the direct to home startups are actually disappearing because they're all being gobbled up by the giants. And also similarly, I would say within the brick and mortar industry, whether it is Birla, whether it is JSW, and many others, LNT of course is there, that they are becoming, they are producers and they are trying to reach the customers directly through their own established online channels. So, if you see, it's a fusion effect, and that is the interesting part. It is not a linear progression of different dynamics of the disruptions. It is the fusion effect of disruption, and therein lies perhaps the problem, and therein lies the challenge, and therein lies the beauty as well, I believe. So, how does strategy help in navigating these disruptions? A quick word on strategy before that. What does strategy do? It is actually the roadmap between where you are. I wish I could see your faces also, but well, I'm limited with the mic here. So what is strategy? Strategy is a roadmap between where you are and where you want to be. That is the aspiration part of it. Taking into account your organizational purpose, your capabilities, your resources, and the environment. I'm not elaborating on all of this, but each of this requires a separate course to go through. In this case, apart from the other things which may or may not be within our control, it is the environment which is totally out of our control, which is turbulent, and the future is ambiguous. So, what I want to emphasize here is that as we look at strategy, the problem is not disruption per se. The problem lies in the inability, if at all, to cope with disruption as and when it happens. Before I go into the future of strategy, just one slide on the traditional approaches that we have all been following as an industry till now, which assumes that things are linear, assumptions that has been taken over the 5-year period are more or less going to stay. We have used technology, we have used approaches like SWOT analysis, Porter, Pestle, and 3Cs, and all of this normal ways of how we navigated the current situation. And then we have biased towards supply-driven, product-centric models. Whereas currently it is the demand-driven, it is solution-centric models that needs to be looked at. So, relatively inflexible and approaches with longer term horizon is what I would say not the present, but till the last few years, maybe even before 1 or 2 years before COVID, till 2018, I would say, is an approach that mostly that we have followed. Going to the future of strategy, and one of our your own students mentioned about this adaptability. Yes, of course. So when we are talking about strategy, what we need to keep in mind is that we need to look at speculative scenarios, where we are talking about that there is a situation where there could be any one approach to come to reach the goal. It has to be adaptive, which means must be ready to evolve quickly and to ensure that the changes you are ready for the changes. And the other part is that to have a portfolio which gives you strategic options. Two, a little flexibility, so that in case there is a huge risk that suddenly you fall in one of your sectors, there's another sector which will take over the mantle of protecting the rest of the businesses. The future of strategy, if you read that headline, strategy is something, therefore, that happens a little bit at a time every day. When you get up in the morning, you do not know what is that going to happen during the day. So continuous scanning. One thing that we do is a continuous scanning of the ecosystem and its impact on the drivers for the business. Rigorous exploration of potential sources of value destruction and sharper contingency planning for unexpected events. Planning for a new steady state won't work. And next slide, I'll elaborate on this a little bit more. Leaders need to see themselves as stewards of an ongoing conversation and not the guardians of a process that enshrines the past in next year's budget. The reviews that we have currently, and that we also have with businesses, we talk about what has happened, what are the changes that have happened between the last time we reviewed and now. It is not about why is it that assumptions are wrong, why is it that this has happened. The point is that what has changed, and then what all you need to do still to ensure that the goal is reached. This line is important, and please hear it a bit carefully. If strategy is always on, and I've taken it from a book. If strategy is always on, your antenna is always up, your radar is actively sensing or reading indicators, and you're embracing the unknown with systematic experimentation, then you may find yourself able to manage back the anxiety of certainty with the discipline of optionality. Let's understand there's no certainty, but you are creating an environment where you can move between the options and you are getting ready for that. So, planning for a new steady state, as I mentioned in the last slide, also won't work. You have to acknowledge that the certainty, and when I say you, it is from the leadership to the person on the ground. You will have to acknowledge and speak about it openly that there is uncertainty, bring in diverse perspectives, think expansively first, edit later. And I'll just touch upon it, but when we talk in the next section, we're briefly touching upon LNT, where you are talking about the person on the ground to the senior leadership, to even experts who may not have anything to do with your industry, but who are talking about what is happening in the rest of the world, which may impact yourself, your business, directly or indirectly. So think less about existing products or services and a lot more about customers and the problems that they need to solve. This is the most critical part that we need to adhere to. During the times of COVID, the one thing that the management, the leadership told everyone across the organization, this is the time that you reach out to your customers. This is the time when you understand what is it that we should have been doing, which we have not done, we should have helped the customer. So this is something which is very important to make or break for any business. Try to spot opportunities amid the disruption. This is the only way to go forward. Plan for scenarios. Recognize that not every question will be answered in scenario. There will always be a gray area. And have strategies to build to have a flexible, resilient, digitally tuned workforce. And I can tell you that in the discussions at the top management table and the boardrooms, the one thing that everyone is concerned about is not about technology, not about the disruptions. They are saying that do we have a workforce which is ready, which is getting ready to address these changes and to take on? Do we have a leadership pipeline who will ensure that they can lead during turbulent times? So this is as important as any other operational issues that we face. So we need to embrace disruptions as a fundamental feature and not as a flaw. Am I going too fast or too slow? Is it okay? Yes. Till now, is it okay? Yes. Very quickly, I will take you on through the LNT business and strategy snapshot. So we are in last few months, we are now 24 billion turnover organization, and we are into we follow the growth of the nation, we follow the trajectory of the economy, and if you see, we are into infrastructure EPC, we are into clean energy section, manufacturing, defense, realty, all the development projects, and the road projects, the rail projects. We have financial services, we have e-commerce, and the IT and technology services. The red ones and the other ones that we have entered into in the last few years. And our war cry for the year Laksha was future ready. And this is actually, interestingly, this was the time when COVID had struck, because the 5-year strategy was FY21 to FY26, and we were looking at, we started work in 2019 itself, which went into 2020, and then bang on, we were in the middle of the pandemic. It was in a way good, because we understood the implications of what disruption really means and how we have to be ready for the future. I'm not going to go into all of it, but what I wanted to showcase to you is that we looked at, apart from the industries that we are in, which much of it is brick and mortar, is about the entire change of the organization pattern, mobility, demography, sustainability, digitalization, which may have and which we would see as having an indirect impact on our businesses, if not a direct one. And more, I mean, there were several iterations of this. Disruptions that we were considered, and if you see that, I think this was a pinnacle where things were going all in all directions, so to say. We were looking at the geopolitics, multipolar world, the war that happened, the new deal that we were trying to, that US and Iran were trying to forge, and lifting the sanctions on Iran at that point in time, the US-China war, critical raw materials securitization, and you all have, of course, you all know the chip, how it was disrupted, and what happened to all the laptops and such automobile industry, how it slowed down. The macroeconomic trends, the dollar as a currency, will it remain, will it change, how is it shifting, the liquidity crunch, stagflation, inflation, with the entire macroeconomics of it, the Indian politics, political scenario. Then you have the incentives that the government was giving through the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme. Other challenges like the commodity prices, which hit every industry, and of course, in our case, of course, because we are into the construction projects, so the oil prices, the cement prices, the steel prices, which were all just going up and down, very volatile. That was something that was very critical. You had to predict without knowing how to predict. Energy prices, mentioned just now, the disruptive competition and talent or skilled human resource crunch that we faced at that time, which is continuing even today, which will go into the future. And climate change, of course, is the elephant in the room, which is going to change industries. We have to look at all of this, look at scenarios to all of this, and for each of our businesses, we looked at the scenario of continuing, a boom, and a gloom. So these three scenarios were something that we were looking at, and for each of the businesses, we're looking at industries where we should watch, we should exit, we should grow, and we should, whether a new adjacency can come in. So these factors together were the backdrop of the disruptions, which I would say a blessing in disguise, because it helped us to be stronger for the future. This is a very important word that we have used and we will continue to use, and this is very important for all the businesses, is about resilience. What is the percentage revenue in segments that we are getting commoditized? And very quickly I'll tell you, commoditization is a very important part in our industry, because we are an industry which is into turnkey projects. Profitability comes from the turnkey projects, and it's about most of our projects are into billions of dollars, and turnkey helps. But here we have smaller, startups which are smarter in digitalization, smaller entities which are coming into and eating into the value chain of the project. And that is a real stark risk for us. So what is it that we need to do, either to exit those or to ensure that we are better than the startups, even though we were elephants? Have you considered current advantages that may not be sustainable in the future? What does your assumptions say? And how long is it going to stay? What could be the disruptions to that? Our market trends are extrapolations of our market trends that you are showing, extrapolations of the past, or they are factored in new drivers or new disruptions. If we expect to grow faster than industry, is it based on a competitive advantage that we can sustain over 5 years? In fact, the question was that look at next 10 years, and we had done a perspective planning before that to see that what is happening in the next 10 years. And we did a complete analysis. I would not say complete because it's always changing and dynamic. Have we built flexibility into our plans? Which means that have we done scenario planning for each of the big ticket items that we are showcasing in our Laksha strategy? Can we quickly change direction, withdraw, redirect resources, or are we committing to a strategy? This is a question, and it's very ironical. You're presenting a strategy and you're asking that, are we committing to a strategy? What happens, what changes, and what changes if something changes? This is actually the future that we are looking at strategy from the lens of the future. And how we look at alternate scenarios of the future and their impact on the plan. And I must tell you this, that in corporate strategy, every 2 months, in fact, it's a daily basis, we closely analyze the impact of all the factors that we have shown in the other slide and more to see that what is happening, how will it impact our business revenues and turnover or working capital. What is it that the mitigation needs to be done? What initiatives needs to be taken? This is an ongoing basis that we have been doing since the strategy, 5-year strategy has been formulated. I have time, right? Yeah. Okay. So this is, and this is I will end with this. This is a 5 to 6 minute video. Guys, look at it. Every frame has a message, and I couldn't but not show it to you because I feel that this is very important and critical. I'll end my presentation here, and I would like to do the video for you all to see and conclude it then.
I'm sorry, Mr. Baker, but you've developed a severe gluten intolerance. I'm sorry, Mr. Baker, but you've developed a severe gluten intolerance.
Can I get one gluten-free croissant?
Yeah. Wait, does that have butter in it?
Yes.
You wouldn't happen to have any without butter, like a butter substitute? Like olive oil or canola oil, coconut oil, grapeseed oil? I mean, any oils at all that you want?
I gotta return this croissant.
Return a croissant?
There's no nuts. I took a bite. No nuts on the inside. No almonds, no cashews, there's no peanuts in there, there's no walnuts. I expected nuts.
I'm allergic to nuts. I'm also allergic to eggs, milk, butter, sugar, salt.
I'm allergic to nuts. I'm allergic to anything. I just want to know.
Every year, thousands of people are diagnosed with a gluten intolerance. Where will they go when they need custom-made croissants?
Hi, I'm Joseph from Joseph's Gluten-Free Bakery. When I was diagnosed with a gluten intolerance, I thought my life was over. But after seeing just how many people want custom-made gluten-free croissants, I seized the opportunity to cook up the Croissant Creator app.
The Croissant Creator app. With over 3 billion combinations, the Croissant Creator app allows you to build your croissant any way you like it and have it delivered fresh to your door.
Or come on down to the store and ask for Joseph. I'll make it for you myself. Joseph's Bakery. Let your biggest concerns be my biggest opportunities.
You're hungry for some dough, you gotta go to Joseph.
Thank you.
Wow, did you like that? Yes. Okay, thank you, ma'am. To do justice to a wonderful speech of that kind with a message at the end is really amazing. We have, in these kinds of disruptions, a difficult task. Each of us who are part of this learning process and will one day get into a business should learn, among other things, to handle disruption. Because as real as it sounds, that's what's going to be happening to each of us in whichever line we choose to join after leaving XIM. So one of the preparations we expected that we will have during this period is how to handle disruptions. There's a very quotable quote, and it will not be quotable if I don't quote it. So it says, strategies like buying a bottle of fine wine. When you take a lady out for dinner, tactics are getting her to drink it. In this presentation which you saw, it's about planning a strategy. It's also about executing a strategy. Imagine prior to the pandemic, a company of the size of Larsen and Toubro, which is heavily into infrastructure and such development. And one fine day you're told you cannot do anything outside. You cannot build, you cannot, there's no roads, there's no buildings. And how an organization of that type takes a strategy, turns it into tactics, operationalizes it, and indeed grows during that period. I think that's the biggest message that Ms. Parna Singh has brought by the very presentation she had. We'll go on to the next presentation, if you can kindly introduce it.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker for the day is Mr. Ajay Das. Sir is the Director, Business Development at Air Products, India, and is from the class of 1996 PGDM of XIM. He completed his degree in Electrical Engineering from NIT Rourkela. With close to 30 years of experience in working over a cross-section of industries, spanning from metals to energy, in multiple functions ranging from electrical engineering to corporate strategy, of large public and private sector corporates, he brings unique blend of technical expertise and business acumen to the table. He had an early test of corporate strategy when he started working in the corner office as the executive assistant to CEOs of some of the largest corporates. He is passionate about energy transition to low carbon energy, and his current organization, Air Products, which is the largest producer of hydrogen in the world, is pioneering this effort globally through setting up mega-scale green and blue hydrogen production facilities. In his current role, Sir is responsible for developing large-scale industrial gas, which includes green hydrogen and coal-based syngas projects in India. It is a matter of pride for XIM to have a distinguished alumnus like you, sir. I am sure your presence has instilled in us inspiration and a dream to be here on this stage one day. Sir, the dais is all yours.
Am I audible? Yes. Good afternoon, Professor Francis, speakers on the dais, professors, my dear students. Special mention about Ma'am Eva Kumar, my communication teacher. I just recognized her sitting here. Thank you very much. Maybe after this I'll meet you, and you have been an inspiration for me to speak here on the stage. Thank you very much for your teachings. Being a student of this, I take the liberty of moving around on the stage. What a memorable day, momentous day for me. Speaking from the dais of my dearest alma mater and speaking to you students, sitting there where I used to sit 25 years back. Life has come a full circle, and the only difference is I am right now speaking from here on the stage and you guys are sitting there. But let me tell you, given a chance, I'd always like to go back to your place, revisit my student experiences, which I lost some of them probably, and let me tell you that this is going to be the most memorable period of your life which you are going to cherish forever in your life. So please don't let loose a moment of experience from your pocket, be it JLTs, NLTs, cultural events, sports events, whatever, and of course studies, don't neglect your studies. Well, coming back to the topic today, future of strategy, embracing non-traditional approaches and disruptive thinking. To my mind, as a strategist, this has always been that. That's not the future. Actually, that has been. If you are a true strategist, you have to be non-traditional. If you want to be in your career, be it organization, wherever you are working, you have to. If you want to give a gigantic lift to your organization, differential lift to your career, you have to be non-traditional. You have to have a disruptive thinking. Well, talking about me, actually, my journey on strategy started sometimes 20 years back when I was selected to assist the managing director of SAIL RSP sometime in the early 2000. And to be very frank, even though that was a very coveted position, I was not very happy to join that. Why? Because, well, I'll tell you why. Because after doing my specialization in finance from here, I wasn't studying from SAIL, and when I went back to SAIL, I started working in finance department. I was doing very well. I was getting recognized. Life was good. 9 to 5:30 job. And obviously, for a finance professional, it was very difficult to change his line, sacrifice his line from a finance professional line to general management line. But somehow, there was was a bit of non-traditional thinking, you can say. There was advice which said me that you bring a blend of your finance profile with the general management profile, which might give you a lift in career, which may not, but you can take a risk. So even though the managing director secretariat was something like long hours of working and stressed and lot of work, and at that time the plant was not doing well. So I took that decision. Part of that non-traditional thinking was infused to my better half. I must give credit to her also, because I was not very inclined to come. But anyway, I joined. And guys, let me tell you that had I not taken that decision on that day of 2003 or 2004, probably I would have been someplace, and probably I would have made lots of my experience over the last 20 years, lots of activities, lots of exposures, which I would definitely have missed. So the point was, a bit of non-traditional thinking, a thinking out of the way, probably helped me saving my career in a better way. Okay, that was that. But let me come back to the topic again today. So in the course of this discussion, I'll be covering 2 case studies. I'm not going to the theoretical stuff. I'll be going 2 case studies out of my experience to relate that to today's topic of non-traditional approaches and disruptive thinking. The first one is one when I started my career with Steel Authority, and the second one is about the company where I'm working, which is the largest producer of hydrogen in the world and is driving a clean energy revolution. Well, to start with the first one, I think many of I joined. I was in Rockler Steel Plant, as I said, and many of you must be in Rockler. How many are you from Rockler? Oh, not many, but in my village there are lot of people who are from Rockler. So Rockler is a nice city within the Garden Lake. It's just like in a European city. But the heart of the city is Rockler Steel Plant, which drives the economy of the entire city and the nearby cities also. The cities like Kalunga, Constrat are also being driven by Rockler Steel Plant. And if some of you remember, in the early years of 2000, around 2001, 2002, Rockler Steel Plant was in a very bad state. It was making almost 2 to 3 crores losses every year. And employee relations were at its nadir, belligerent unionism, lots of groups with having different objectives, and it was all said that probably this unit will get into being declared as a sick unit. And once a public sector unit gets declared as a sick unit, it's very difficult to bring it out of that. So people were actually counting the number of days when it will become sick. And that was a time when one of the legendary and one of the visionary leaders so far I've seen in SAIL, Dr. Sanat Misra, if you have heard about him, he joined as the managing director of Rockler Steel Plant. And he selected me to assist him in bringing him in a turnaround of the plant. So what we did, rather it was more of the leadership of Dr. Misra. So unlike his predecessors, when he joined, actually one thing I should also tell you that even Dr. Misra was not very interested to take up Rockler Steel Plant because he would come to a loss-making steel plant, not making profit and so much of trading and relations. That he didn't tell me, but in a recent interview I was seeing on RSTV, Rockler Steel TV, and he was giving an interview to someone and he was telling that even I was not interested when I was given the first offer to come to steel plant. But that's history. So when he came, he's actually a very educated person. He's from a doctoral graduate from Illinois. So when he came, unlike his predecessors, he didn't go to the mills. He didn't go to blast furnaces, steel melting shops, and rolling mills to see that how we can increase the production, what sort of modification we should do on the first day. He first tried to understand what's happening. Why is the plant is working the way it is? And then over a period of time, 2-3 months, the one thing he discovered that there is a lot of gaps between the minds. So he started the slogan, and told us that let's prepare strategies around how to close the gap between the minds. Close the gap between the minds. He said people are the most important factor here, not the machines. Let's concentrate on people first. Let's see that how people's minds, there are so many minds and so many groups moving around, let's bring them together. And with that, what we started is known as mass contact program. That was the start of the intervention, the start of reform, which he used to call as sanskar. Many of the literature have been scripted around that. Probably you can refer to that sometime. And as a part of that, what is mass contact program? Mass contact program is where 500 people from different units, the plant was of 24,000 people, 500 people from different units were called to sit in an auditorium, called go on the auditorium, on alternate Fridays, and along with the managing director, the executive directors, and the senior management sitting there. First, they will be given a presentation of 25 minutes about what the plant is doing, where are we going, and what are the ways, probably with some interventions like in some of the areas can be done. And after 25 minutes, the people which constituted all the stratas of the workers, right from the workers at the L1 level, lowest level, to the highest level officers, and all senior officers. And then the feedback was taken from them that you tell in your area how you can improve upon, so that can, your area of work can ultimately contribute to the betterment of the plant. That was something new for the people actually. The people, they've never heard of something like the managing director sitting on the dais week after week and interacting with people, answering their questions, not only managing director, all senior people sitting there, answering their questions, understanding them with rapt attention. And the event doesn't stop there. Based on the feedbacks which were received from the workmen there and all the other people as well, there are task forces were made with themes, different themes, and those task forces were asked to give their findings. And based on those findings, a number of interventions were initiated almost simultaneously. While there were a number of interventions which we started as part of the strategy team, I was coordinating many of them with the plant people, with the senior officers. But there are two interventions which touched my heart. Probably very small if you see it from the outside, but the impact was so deep. Probably played one of the most important role in the betterment of the plant. One of the interventions is like, I'll tell you about those two interventions. One of the interventions was like, the department HODs, the heads of departments were told that, see, if you are achieving a production of, let's say X, or let's say L1 level, you will be given an incentive. That's nothing great actually. A lot of companies do that. Nothing much great about giving an incentive if you achieve a production level. But they were also said that if you achieve that, the plant will sponsor a feast for you and all your workers in a community center on a nice Sunday morning. So what happened? When they achieved the level of production, they got their incentives, but they were also invited to a plant-sponsored feast in one of the community centers where both the general manager and the lowest level technical workers sat together on the ground to share a feast. What a level of inclusion in that is. And earlier, the lowest level worker would not think of sitting with the general manager on the same ground. But here, all of them came together, and what the workers, the lowest level or the mid-level people thought about, how they felt about it, that they are also a stakeholder in the turnaround of the plant. They're doing something, they're participating in this thing, and they started taking pride in such actions. I have heard people in, let's say, in a hospital mill saying, in the month of March, they would say their cold rolling mill counterparts, hey, we got a feast this month. How about you? Did you get? So that was sort of a pride that we could get a feast. We could get a feast with our senior management, which was sponsored by the brand. And that was a healthy competition which was coming between the different units. And second intervention, I will tell you about, we introduced a scheme of, we introduced some interventions regarding reviving the cultural life of the city. So what Dr. Mishra said is, it's all right, plant, machines, fine, but what the workman is doing after he goes back to his home? How he is getting involved, how he is feeling, where is the connection between the plant and me? So what we did, we started a lot of cultural functions, different type of cultural functions, and at different places, and we started inviting the employees, the lowest to highest to the middle level, all people who got invitation to attend those cultural functions. And people felt great about this. And they said, they came with their families and they felt great about this, that I am getting an invitation from the managing director's office to attend a cultural function. Never heard of him, Dr. Stratonomics. Never. Different. Totally different. Differential thinking, because untraditional thinking. And the results were visible. Ultimately, it is the teamwork. And the team, a motivated teamwork that succeeded. The plant did turn around, but that's not a big thing. What happened actually, the type of culture that regime actually set, that went on for years and years. Even today, Dr. Stratonomics is one of the best performing steel brand of Shell. And what I heard, I met Shell chairman last month, and he was saying that Dr. Stratonomics is going to be the largest producing steel plant of Shell's units by 2030 operates expansion. One more expansion will happen. So what I wanted to say is that this is more about restricted to traditional thinking, HR interventions, and all those things in an organization. But let me tell you that when you do such type of non-traditional approach, take and do such type of thinking, bring such type of interventions, things are not smooth. You face a lot of oppositions from your recognized trade unions, opposition from interested parties with interest sacrifices, opposition from political parties. So many. Had you gone in the usual way, traditional way, or the opposition could have been list. But there are oppositions. And if you want to succeed in your non-traditional thinking and you want to bring out some change, then you have to create a moat around yourself by creating a collaboration. With the other supporting organizations who are either hiddenly or openly supporting you. They could be some of the trade unions who were not recognized, but they are not happy with the recognized unions activity. There could be officials association, there could be cultural groups, there could be the administration, the political parties. So you have to have a collaboration. That's the most important thing. In fact, when I was going through a course of Harvard Business as part of my Nostra leadership program, they were constantly stressing on that you have to have, if you want to succeed in disruptive thinking approach, then you have to create collaboration. And that collaboration is very much important. We will create a moat around you. Otherwise, if you think that you can go with an untraditional thinking without taking support from others, that's not possible. You have to create that collaboration. So that's about one part of the story. 20 years fast forward, moved around a lot of organizations, and right now landed at Air Products. Air Products is a $65 million company, the largest, one of the largest industry gas producers, and the largest hydrogen producers in the world. 700 units, 20,000 people, working over hundreds of nations. And the story is about how Air Products is right now adopting is taking a disruptive strategy regarding clean energy adoption. Now, before I go into that, let me come to the warming of the globe. All of you agree that we are staying in a warmer world? Do you agree? Yes. We are staying in a warmer world. Whether we are feeling it here or not, our counterparts in the West do feel about that. I was speaking to one of my colleagues who sits in Worcester, and he was saying that that last August, the temperature was, average temperature was 40 degrees centigrade, and it probably was the highest there. Not only, and it's not only the story of Worcester, it's all around. It's whether it's Europe, US, Canada, everywhere. Forests are warming, places are becoming warmer. And why this warming is taking place? It's because of what? Yeah, come on. Mostly greenhouse gases actually. And the greenhouse gases, again, the highest contributor to greenhouse gases, fossil fuels. But the irony is, fossil fuels is more than 80% of our total energy basket. You just can't, today, although people are saying, you must be seeing a lot of protest groups saying that come out of fossil fuel, but it's very difficult to come out of fossil fuel immediately. When out of the total energy basket, 80% is by three fossil fuels: coal, oil, and gas. But warming is real. So one day or other, we have to slowly come out of this. So a lot of conferences, a lot of talks are happening, whether it is G20 or COP26, COP27, or any. You see, clean energy is the agenda which is being taken up in the past, taken up as the past. But the reality is, we are not seeing a lot of action on the ground. And as a result, we are probably moving at a very high speed towards the blind area. I remember Mia Motley, I think the premier of Barbados, what she said is that if it is 2 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial, probably that's a death sentence to the people of Barbados. Not only Barbados, many low-lying islands will submerge very soon. And the way we are going, our fossil fuels are not coming down. Fossil fuels grow, with the growth in like India and China, the consumptions are increasing on. But clean energy adoption has to be there. Everyone agrees to that. Even if you have seen G20, there was an agreement on this. But as I said, action, because companies, people are apprehensive that how this will play out. Who is going to take this? And this is where Air Products and our chairman, the chairman of Air Products, Shafiq Azimi, thought this is the opportune moment when you should take a disruptive action and non-traditional. And that is, he thought of he started setting up, that's in fact 3 years back, that we will set up the largest green hydrogen plant of the world in Saudi. Why in Saudi? Because Saudi is where you get cheaper wind, cheaper solar, and the land there is conducive for export. And that decision was taken 3 years back, and right now, and the plant will be completed by 2030. And this is at a time when you will see in the market, normally the plants on green hydrogen. Let me tell you, do you understand about green hydrogen, or should I tell you about that? So, sorry? You don't know about it? Yeah, you know, I suppose. Let me tell you in some very, when we are saying clean energy adoption, obviously the clean energy adoption can be done through renewables. Renewables is one part, but that's only 10% of the total energy basket. But there is another element which is being looked at with a lot of hope, that is hydrogen. Hydrogen can help not only the transportation, it can help a lot of industries like steel, cement, shipping, air, and that too, but green hydrogen. Like right now, we are also producing hydrogen, we are the largest producer, and the world is consuming 80 million tons of hydrogen today, but all those are grey hydrogen. Grey meaning there is a CO2 emission there. But the moment you produce some hydrogen where there is no CO2 emission, that becomes green. And if you are producing some hydrogen where you are able to sequester or you are to store the CO2 which is produced under the ground so that it doesn't get emitted to the atmosphere, that's blue hydrogen. So green and blue are acceptable forms of clean energy. And Air Products at this opportune moment has taken a massive decision that we will be producing 650 tons per day of green hydrogen by 2026 from NEOM. All of you must be knowing about NEOM. You know about NEOM? NEOM is the infrared city in the west coast of Saudi Arabia, but linear city, no crossroads, sustainable. The city will be built with sustainable energy. 90 million, more than 90 million people probably will be staying there. And just read about in Wikipedia, very interesting city. So we are coming up with a plant, and that's not only one after another. In Texas, 200 tons per day. Again, green hydrogen. Blue hydrogen, 1700 tons per day. Gulf Coast, Louisiana. Another 1600 tons per day, Edmonton. And the others are nowhere near us now. If you see the plants coming up elsewhere, it's 5 ton, 10 ton, 20 ton. And this decision to go for large scale, disrupting the market at a certain point of time is not by whims. It is under the conviction that, yes, the world will become warmer and the threat of warming will become larger and larger, even though we may try to ignore that for the time being. We may try to procrastinate that, but that will happen. And then a time will come when the demand for clean energy will be so high that there will be no suppliers. Rather, demand will be much higher than supply. And there is a chance of demand destruction, and we will not like to get that chance to go away. We will be there as a market leader to supply green hydrogen to the world. Is there no risk in this? Today there is no green hydrogen. People are not consuming green hydrogen. There is a risk, but the chances of success with this decision is far outweighs the risk of failure. And to my pleasant surprise, when I was sitting in Pune airport the day before, I saw the total chairman was recently announced that his company, the large oil and gas company, his company announced that they will be requiring around 0.5 million ton of green hydrogen by 2030, and they are going to come out with the tender. And this is the start of the story. And this story is going to get repeated, but by the time the world wakes up, probably Air Products will be at a place starting to supply those green hydrogen to the entire world. And we are going to create that market, and we are going to have a good command of the market, which will give us a future for next 50 years. And that's the way we are going. That's the type of non-traditional after disruptive thinking that one needs to do. So these are the two cases.
You'll have to wind up now.
Yeah, so 2 minutes. So these are the two cases I just wanted to bring you, quote you, out of my 20 years experience. There are several other cases which probably I would like to share at some other point of time. Probably you can, I am here today, so in the evening we can chat about it if you have any questions. But the point was to say that whether it's your career, or whether it's your organization, whether it's a global scale where the competition is being played out, you are a competitor there, you have to thoda hatke jana padega. If you go in the natural way, if you follow the traditional path, you will grow, but you will not be able to give that gigantic leap which your organization needs from you as a strategist. Thank you very much for giving me a passive listening, and thank you very much. And I want to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Das. It was a pleasure to have you back again at your alma mater. Going by one of the takeaways from what you mentioned as a strategy, I think it's very important that you choose your life partner correctly, if I've understood correctly. For me, it's too late to do that. As far as disruptive thinking is concerned, it's only disruptive, no thinking involved now. But for you guys, there's a strategy out there. The passion that he speaks with is very clear, very evident that there's a humane face behind all of that. The examples he took, which were all real life examples, talk how much it's important not only to be focused on a strategy, but behind that see the people involved in that strategy, the way you deliver it, the way you talk about it. Thank you, Mr. Das, for that very, very nice talk. We'll introduce the next speaker.
Our third speaker for the day is Mrs. Farhana Khan, an esteemed alum of SPGen Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai. Ma'am brings a wealth of experience. Having joined Microsoft in March 2019 as the modern work leader for the country, responsible for driving the adoption of the modern work platform across all the large customers in India, making it the largest cloud of Microsoft. Her current role involves empowering a dynamic ecosystem of cloud adoption and digital transformation of partners to harness Microsoft platforms for intelligent edge solutions and overseeing the OEM business in the country. Prior to her tenure in Microsoft, she served as the VP and business head for IoT at Vodafone Business Services, where she pioneered IoT adoption for digital transformation in India. Her leadership led to the establishment of Vodafone's IoT practice in the region, and Vodafone was conferred with the prestigious IoT Business of the Year award. With a remarkable 20+ years in business consultation and P&L management, her journey also includes roles at IBM Global Services and Infosys. She actively believes in giving back to the society and supports organizations working in the field of STEM, education for women and the girl child. It is a matter of huge pride to have you amongst us, ma'am. The stage is now all yours.
Thank you so much. Lovely hearing both the speakers before me. I learn every time I hear someone from the industry. But I will give it a little bit of a different flavor today. The one underlying thing in any disruption in the last 20 years, 2 decades, has been technology. I come from 20 years of technology, so I wanted to land some messages around what and how technology plays a role in this disruption. That's one. Second, what and how, as you go and embark your career as tomorrow's entrepreneurs, tomorrow's career, corporate career, what are the key 3 or 4 skills that you need to have in this current world to succeed? The pressure is a lot on me. My little one is sitting here. He's an extended speaker, and I know whatever I say today will be replayed till his memory serves him, and he'll keep replaying it at home. But okay. How many of you have seen this, used this? Not bad. I'm impressed. But this was what music used to be for us. The music used to be cassettes. Music used to be a stereo. Music used to be a Walkman. If you have parents, friends, uncles, aunts living abroad who would get for you, and we used to wait for the coveted CDs to be launched and then buy that and play that. Music now is like this, right? I hear music on my phone, and I love hearing music. That's my thing on the flight. I know a lot of people use podcasts, so it's all on the phone with very, very superior speakers and headphones and all kinds of fashion accessories that they're put up. So the world is disrupted enough, and these are few of the companies, and I know Supanna mentioned them, but the one underlying thing that I wanted to spend is, you take a Tesla, you take an Uber, you take an Amazon Kindle or a Netflix or any of these brands, all of them leverage technology as an underlying factor. All of them are what you call as a digital native company. They started with digital as the core foundation of what you want to do. And then they extended to everything else. Amazon started with taking bookstores, which is a brick and mortar, to online, right? And as a retail online. But then they extended it back, the value chain extended, now it's still back with them acquiring Whole Foods and trying to go back and doing the end-to-end value chain. So all of these companies had technology as an underlying reason or yardstick for technology, for digital disruption. So this is disruptive innovation using technologies. And this matters because as we go, the generation we are in now for the next 20, 30 years, and the world has changed since 20 years, forward also, and I was going to say that also, but I mentioned that even the Uber of the world, you can't sit, you have disrupted, that doesn't mean you're the market leader. Someone will come and disrupt your market again. So how fast are you being able to disrupt or keep changing or evolving becomes extremely critical. Now, there are 4 elements of disruption. Disruption, very, very broadly means out of the box thinking, right? What can you do differently? And it's not necessary that different means creating an organization or a new business model. It can be anything. It can be a technology innovation. You may be doing something different. Take iPhones for example. They used to be in computers all their life. They all decided computers, yes, they're still doing computers. They decided why can't you have a phone which has a touch screen? Or why can't you have music which is on the phone? So it's technology innovation. They did not change their business model, they didn't start a new company. Simple. Leverage the technology that they had to create something which is totally different. Business evolution. You talk about all the current companies, right? You talk about Jio, we were discussing that at length, but you take Reliance and you talk about a hardcore petrochemical company doing geo platforms and being the front edge of technology as of now. Talk about societal impact. Ajay just spoke about so much about greenhouse gases and hydrogen, so I don't want to spend that, but I want to talk about one example. During my Vodafone days, we used to do this. All of you have heard of the Jaipur Foot, right? Yes. Okay. So Jaipur Foot basically enables people who have lost a limb to be able to walk again. And during the time, and when I was doing IoT with Vodafone, we used to talk to a lot of startups. And there was this small Jaipur startup which was leveraging technology, IoT, to create an exoskeleton. You know what an exoskeleton is? My boy also knows. Yeah, so an exoskeleton, basically what they did was they'll strap you to something which kind of holds your spine upright and your legs upright, and they would have connectors, these small connectors in it. And these connectors would keep powering the skeleton to make you walk. So what happens, a lot of paralyzed patients, after a point when the body heals, they can actually walk. But their brain stops giving them that signal that their leg is, now they can walk. So what this did is they would keep, to begin with, the person, it will totally take the load of the person, right? So the person is walking, or the person feels they're walking. And as the muscles start gaining strength, as the brain starts recognizing that there's something happening in the leg and they're walking, they will reduce the power, and that happens remotely, that happens based on data and analytics, and after one point, they can actually remove the skeleton, the person can walk out whatever limit their spine has healed. But so this is a small startup doing this amazing job, leveraging on the basic thing of a Jaipur Foot, and I forget the name of the startup, but the founder had a very strong story because someone in his family had that situation, and he said he struggled and he felt very helpless seeing his family, his parents not being able to get that motivation to do it. And that's societal impact. And that startup was for profit. So it was not for like an NGO funded or something, it was for profit, and then it got acquired by one of the large conglomerates. So that's societal impact. That's leveraging technology, creating a business model for in an area which is a white space, but making a difference in your life. I was talking about another example today where, and he's actually an alumni here. I'm going to meet my ex-boss today for dinner, and he is an XIM alumni. He used to be my boss at Microsoft, and he started this company he left Microsoft to start a company called CureBay, which provides digital health or e-health or medical facilities to the people of the interiors of Orissa. So and it's for profit. So these are examples and it's totally digital, totally e-health. The doctors are on, all doctors from AIMS and all the big medical institutes connected through network. So all of it is leveraging technology, but creating something that is for societal impact, which makes the world better, which makes our children have a better world to live in. The other thing is cross-sector collaboration. Collaboration, in the current scheme of things, if you want to go fast, you can go ahead. you can walk alone, but if you want to create something long-lasting and fast, it's a marathon, and for that you need partners. You need to collaborate, and there's so many examples where Tata and Mahindras are partners, or two companies have partners who are supposedly competing with each other. Microsoft and Amazon partnered. So collaboration becomes extremely, extremely key in driving innovation into disruptive thinking. Now, these are the four cornerstones on what your disruption could be. Now, when you have an idea, and let's say you form an idea saying, I want to disrupt in either using in something to do with technology, or how my business runs, or how societal impact happens, or to create a collaboration and open a new market space. What am I supposed to do? The first thing is to challenge assumptions. Not necessarily that what is being done currently is the only way that it can be done. Not necessarily that the first mover advantage is the only advantage you can have. There's so many ways that a smaller player, a different player has come and beaten the Goliath of the industry just by thinking and questioning and challenging assumptions and saying, can it be done some other way? That's the first one. The second one is data. There is so much data around the world. Our world, if I even exclude the consumer data available through Instagram, Facebook, all the social media, literally everyone's world is on social media now, right? If I just take even business data, there is so much data being generated. Harnessing that power of that data into creating a business, or evolving your business, or scaling your business, or preventing your business to being disrupted becomes the second and the most critical thing. It has to be data-driven decision making. Gut plays a very strong role, but it has to be driven by data. My first company was Infosys, and it's the original startup of India. And we were the first batch of MBAs Infosys took on campus. They used to traditionally take only engineers, and they would put them into the Mysore branch and make them teach. Nandan came. Nandan was the CEO that time, Nandan Eligani, and Narayan Murthy got us for induction. And the only thing he said, two things he said, and I'll never forget that in my life. The first thing he said was network, like crazy. You're like MBAs, and if every city you go, you don't have two people you can have dinner with, then you'll fail your job. So first month, like that, nothing else I wanted to network, because when you network, and don't network for intent. Network because you network without an intent, and that's the right network that you build. Because tomorrow when you need them, there the people stand. But if you ever go and reach out to a person to just when you need the person may not be that receptive. The second thing he said, that in God we trust. We are a very religious country. All of us follow faith-based, very spiritual. But other than that, everything comes to data. So if it's not backed with data, don't go ahead with it. So data-driven is extremely critical. Second assumption. Third is collaboration. I couldn't think of another company better than my own to think of collaborations. We collaborate with everyone. Microsoft has collaborated with Amazon, with ChatGPT, the OpenAI Sam Altman, when we decided with Meta, where we fiercely compete. So everywhere. Satya's simple rule is we build platforms to help you become successful. And that you can be our partners, our customers, and even our competitors. So how do we collaboration becomes absolutely key. In the current scheme of things, when you all enter the workforce, if you do not know how to collaborate, how to know the right stakeholders to collaborate with, that could be one of the reasons why you could be not as successful as you could be. So collaboration becomes extremely critical. The third one, and the biggest challenge, at least in our generation, is to decide quickly and to be able to take a risk. You need to take a risk. It's okay to take a risk, and it's okay to fail fast on it. If the first iPod wouldn't have been successful, maybe they wouldn't have done it. But if the first iPhone wouldn't have been successful, maybe they wouldn't have done it. But they came and disrupted an entire industry which was totally captured by BlackBerries. So decide, take a risk. If it fails, that's fine, move on, do something else, right? And try something else. If it works, it's great. Microsoft itself, we tried entering the phone market with Nokia. It didn't work. But our problem was we sat on it for a very long time and pestered on trying to make it work. So when Satya came in, the first thing he did was and before that only, it was decided not to pursue that business. So when you are at a crossroads to make a choice, take a decision, take a risk, act on it quickly. Because agility becomes key. Because if you're not acting on it, someone else is acting on it. Satya said this when we did the partnership with AI and he launched it, and he said that the AI is what we are betting for the next decade. This is the area where all the innovations, all the disruptions are going to happen based on AI. But the headway for this AI or any company to leverage AI to do more, to do things differently, to get a lead is only 6 months. If you don't do it in the next 6 months, it's no longer, you're not going to be a market leader. So deciding quickly and acting fast becomes extremely, extremely important in the current scheme of things. There's a funny story, but someone was telling me this analogy. That Pied Piper story, all of us know? Yes. So Pied Piper, right? He took the kids and he took the rat, and then he jumped. Now imagine the Pied Piper standing at the edge and deciding if I jump karu ke nahi karu. So the people, if you would have just sat and thought about it, someone would have thought differently and walked away, right? The whole logic was about you have to take a decision and you have to do it quickly, or else nobody's going to follow you to do anything. So taking a decision, making a choice, acting on it, even if you fail, that's totally cool. But the important thing is there. So with that, I just wanted to end why is it all about strategy and why I didn't mention the word strategy, because it's all about strategy. A strategy without a strong execution will be just paper. Execution with no strategy is like you're going round and round into circles. So it's all about strategy. He plays chess quite well, my son. And he taught me this move, and I don't know how to chess at all. Okay, so I'm learning from him. And he taught me this move that when the pawn crosses all over to the other side, it has the power of a queen and actually can checkmate your king. And it's a pawn who can only move one step at a time. So it's all about strategy. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fun day.
Proud moment for us at XIM to have you, ma'am, talk about strategy in that fashion. Very interestingly, Microsoft leads the way in many ways in terms of strategy, not only in products and services, but also in thinking in terms of, if you go back to when the company first began, they first came up with a small software which they were trying to sell out of a garage. And they called it by its name, which we came to know much later as DOS. I don't know how many of you remember that. So the earlier name of DOS was QDOS, and it stood for Quick and Dirty Operating System. Now I'm making that up, but that's what it used to be back then. The system just worked, and it worked long enough for you to give a demonstration. After that, it failed. The strategy which Bill Gates and subsequently all these wonderful CEOs at Microsoft have taken have made them what they are today. So they have 4 key words that you use, 4 key themes: technological innovation, business evolution, societal impact, and most important, which he represented, was the collaboration among partners. And the world of the future is going to see much more of all these 4. We'll invite the last speaker now. Can you please introduce him?
Our fourth and final speaker of the day is Mr. Vinod Nandakumar. With over 14 years of experience at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India, Sir is a seasoned senior program manager. His early career at the company was focused on numerical simulations, and later he assumed the pivotal role of technical assistant to the MD and CEO at MBRTI. In this capacity, he played a pivotal role in shaping the company's strategic direction, fostering partnerships, and spearheading digital transformation initiatives. For more than a year now, Mr. Nandakumar has been at the helm of the product management team at MVRDL, where he leads efforts related to digital services portfolio in the connected car space for Mercedes-Benz. His automotive interests extend to areas such as speech technology and sustainability, reflecting his dedication to innovative and forward-thinking approaches in the industry. Sir, it is a pleasure to have you with us today. The floor is all yours.
Covered indicator with let's start. Right. Good evening, my eminent panelists, boys and girls, and professors. Before I start, I think I also like your empathy for a few minutes because a lot of the slides I wanted to say are already been covered by you. So just now wondering what should I say to you guys. Right? So, but jokes apart, let me just tell you that it just goes to show that how common are some of the thoughts that I want to share, right? Irrespective of the wide spectrum of industries that all of us come from. It just basically reflects that all of us start thinking alike, right? Right from the time the Stratonomics was in many ways unveiled, I was just listening to a lot of those terms. But in the reception part of it, for sure. But if you look at it, innovation, collaboration, think, act. So if you start, probably at the end of the day, I don't know how many people are making notes or whatever, but if you were to be a word person, I'm sure you don't find more than 10 or 15 common words, because that is where it will all end up, right? But nevertheless, if we start, I also be tasked of keeping you awake. I hope you guys stay awake, right, for the next 15 minutes. But before I really get into what we do, I just wanted to kind of give a small impression about the company, not about the brand for sure, Mercedes-Benz doesn't need an introduction from Nandakumar. But MBRDI as a company, we are primarily as introduced R&D organization in India, primarily based in Bangalore, with a small office in Delhi. So the prof asked me to ask you, what does India do? India makes cars. What do? We do R&D, right? So that's what we are. So we are about 9,000 engineers working across design, engineering, IT, and whatnot, right? And for us as a company, I feel very proud. 14 years have been not been for me. I started like you, somewhere, as a trainee somewhere, and I've just been working along. And I've always been marveled at the way this company has grown, right? And you will definitely understand why I say that, because working with a German culture and to establish a center like this takes a lot of credibility, right? So, just to get your adrenaline rushing, let me just play a small video and then we go to talk. Yeah? This is an important slide I wanted to share with all of you, right? Something that always is very close to my heart. There are two stories on this, but maybe another day, but if you just look at the two pictures on the slide, technically, it kind of summarizes what our speaker story spoke about and what you're looking at as a topic, right? The Patent Wagon stands proudly on the left hand side of the picture, it was the first car driven on the earth. Founded by Carl Benz, or invented rather by Carl Benz, it replaced the horse garages in Europe. Right? So there's a lot of story to it, but I would rather request that you guys can Google up on the YouTube. There's a fantastic video on the story behind it and how Bertha Benz, the wife of Carl Benz, was an entrepreneur herself, took the car without her husband's permission, and that's how the car came onto the street. So it's a nice story, it's a little long one, so maybe another day. The car on the right hand side that you see was inaugurated last year in the CES 2022 auto show. It's called the Vision EQXX, the first car to have 1,000 kilometers range on a single charge. Alright? The car boasts a lot of technological features, but it also got something called neuromorphic computing, through which they optimized the way that the charge is consumed in the car so that it can last 1,000 kilometers. So to give you a spectrum, somebody spoke about how you reinvent yourself, how you collaborate, how you be in trend with time, right? 1886 to 2022 has been a long time. But the company never said, yeah, I just made a car, so I'll just sit back and enjoy. They try to keep pace with the time. They try to bring the intervention of technology that my colleague spoke about, right? So technically it means that if you don't think appropriately, if you don't act fast, if you don't decide, and if you don't really take a call on what is to be done, you're already and always going to be left behind. So for you to be successful, I think the most important feature or the most important aspect of the business, you really have to blend technology and stay in trend with time. Right? So this picture is basically a picture that talks about Mercedes-Benz building something called as high-power charging stations. Right? Now, at the time of the slide, obviously you have to say disruption here to stay. So does it mean that electric cars are themselves disruption? Apparently not. So if you ask us today in Mercedes-Benz, what is disruption in electric cars? It is technically not that an EV car cannot be made. I mean, for all of you to know in the room, EV cars were not Tesla's invention. It came way back in 1965. But Elon Musk rather found a way how to produce the car, right? I'm not supposed to endorse this brand, so we're not doing that part of it, right? I stick to my brand. But I'll tell you why this disruption is important. So going back, it's the EV journey for me is not about producing cars, but it is really the way that you understand the customer journey that takes somebody to buy an EV car and most importantly to own the EV car. So what I mean by that, you need somebody who's basically driven a petrol or a diesel car to own an EV car first. Secondly, he or she needs to not be worried about range anxiety. Correct? Because that's the first question in the proper class meeting, right? Why do you worry about range anxiety? How do you give me a solution? I'm always worried about the battery level charge of the car, right? It doesn't end there. So if you today go to some of the advanced markets in the Europe and the US, there are algorithms that tell you or the customer where to go and charge. There are algorithms that tell the customer what are the right tariff rates at which he or she can charge the car. Most importantly, the challenge that you're trying to solve is when the customer is basically charging the car, what do they do? Because today, despite the charges that you have, you're always wondering what a customer does inside the car when the car is being charged. Right? So the challenge here is not to make an EV car, but to build an ecosystem around the product that will enable the customer to use the car. And this is where this whole journey becomes very fascinating and interesting, because not a single company can claim to be crack the code. Right? So you could come up with the most fanciest of the ideas, you could have the most brilliant of technologies to really say, one, how do you make the customer buy the car? And secondly, how does the customer use the car? Then, of course, you have AI and data coming in, right? So if you know a customer uses a car, if you know the drive pattern of the customer, how do you nudge the customer to set a charging station? If the customer has a problem, how do you solve it? So on and so forth, right? So it basically opens up an entire business case to you that you want to do. So this will definitely make the EV space interesting. And I think all of you all in the room, somewhere, somehow, can contribute, right? We spoke about technology, we spoke about innovation, right? What happens if these two come together? So I just thought this is a picture, maybe just give you why I chose this picture, right? All of us used to park our cars, most of you drive home, you park your cars and then you're off, right? So if you really wanted to look at it from an innovative perspective, you also wanted to bring the technology to it, then we have a product that's called the automated valet parking. Currently, it is available in the airport in Stuttgart. And what does it do? If you have a EQS or an EQE that is there in the picture, you take the car, go to the airport, take your luggage, lock the car, and say, go and park yourself. Right? The car, then once it gets the prompt, locks the door, drives by itself. The speed is like about 10 kilometers per hour, there are a lot of restrictions, you're not getting it. But about 5-10 minutes, it maneuvers, it goes to the parking spot that you right now see, it locks itself, and you send your signal to say, hey, I'm done, I'm here. Right? That's blending technology and innovation. So if somebody did not really look at it as a problem to solve, he would still, in our own ways, always be doing the parking car. But you really want to make it so complex, and it is definitely complex today. But every solution always starts with that. Then again, you have creative minds working on it, challenging it, and then the solutions get simplified and become better. So what I mean by that is, you can look at a problem and say, yeah, it's a simple or complex, right? You might say it's too simple for me to solve, somebody says it's too complex for me to not solve it. But your real success lies in finding a very creative solution and not rather classifying a problem as simple or complex. And most importantly, you need customers who take your solutions. Because if customers don't embrace your solutions, then that definitely becomes a fail. And somebody said, fail safe, fail fast. It's very important. Because if you don't fail safe and you don't fail fast, you never learn. And you don't learn, you don't have experience. Right? So this is a quote by a gentleman, so I just steal the quote. But for me, what's very important, that if you really don't have a vision, especially what you call a digital vision, I think you're not going to succeed as a company. So Mercedes-Benz are very fortunate to be working here because they understood it very fast, they have realized it very earlier, and that's how the entire connected car space, we are very, very active on it, right? So come to think of it, today, you sit in your car, you have an entire dashboard. It's a big screen, mind you. So newer Mercedes-Benz models have a screen of about 16 inch. So that's quite a lot of real estate on your front. You can speak to the car. So you say, hey Mercedes, your car is starting. You want to have a Teams call? You have a Teams call. You want to make an email check? You have an email check. You want a navigation system? It's there. You want AI? Of course yes. Right? So if you systematically don't bring in technology, if you don't imagine what digital can do to the customer, you're always going to be left behind. Right? So that's where I think the power of digital comes in. Come to think of it today, you have software updates on your phone, don't you? So all of you will just plug in, you get a message to say, okay, some update. Right? How many of you really even bother to read what updates are happening? Yeah, maybe you're interested to say, okay, camera resolution to get bigger, something else goes bigger, right? But today, the auto industry is heavily relying on OTA, or called over-the-air update, which means if you park the car, you get a notification at some point of time to say, you have some software updates in your car. Do you want to update? You say, yes, I have a new feature, or I have a new fix. Addressing a problem that was probably there that you didn't notice because in the backend, in the cloud, somebody's noticing it, and they give you a fix. Right? We talk about data-driven decision making, right? If you do not understand how a customer uses your car, if you don't understand what customer problems are there, and if you don't give solution to those problems using data and validating and qualifying the data, you are never ever going to be closer to the customer. Right? So today, as we evolve in the automotive industry, it is not about take a product, a customer writes a check, you give the car, hands off, and done. It's never like that, right? It's a question of that actually is the starting point of the relationship. That is the starting point for us as a company to get data, to understand the drive behavior, to understand the customer preference, to understand the challenges that we face. And it's only then, when you know all of these, you are able to build tailor-made solutions. And it's only if you make tailor-made solutions to customers, they are going to stay with you. Else, they can always go elsewhere. Right? So, for me to conclude, I think two of the messages are very important. Right? One, you need to stay in trend, you need to innovate, you need to learn, you need to be aggressive, and you never have to be afraid if you fail. Right? If you have the right mindset, if you have the spirit of innovation within you, and if you have a lot of passion, I'm sure the energy in the room, the youth that we have in the room, can definitely build great products for India from this place. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vinod Kumar. Wonderful hearing a person from a very iconic brand like Mercedes talk about technology and where it's going. It is very heartening for a professor of information technology. I see that in my course, which I do for IT strategy, design and implementation. You've done a lot of the marketing that I'll be requiring for it. Thank you for that. Very important now that we have a discussion on some of the major words that have come up as a consequence of our discussion. I'll open the floor for the next 15 minutes to the House. Anybody who has any comments, questions, queries, anything for any of the speakers, you can either put it to a speaker or you can leave it to the panel and they among themselves will decide who is going to answer that question. So there are people going around with microphones. If you put up your hand, then we can choose whoever is going to be speaking and the microphone will come to you. You please come. Yeah, there's a hand right here. I will sit down in the meanwhile.
Good evening, I'm Dhanavash from XIM BPM batch 2325. It was a good presentation. My query is to Mr. Vinod Nandakumar. At the end of his speech, he talked about how we need to stay in trend and stuff like that. Wouldn't that be at odds with disruptive innovation? Like following trends, I don't think that's disruptive.
So can I just get your last sentence and get it, please?
So you spoke about staying in trend, that we'll have to move with the recent advancements and stuff. Wouldn't that be like at odds with disruptive innovation if we are following trends?
Okay, let me give an example, right? So everybody uses AI, right? And so everybody uses AI, and it's a choice for you whether you want to bring it in the car or not. So, like I said, for me, when I made this presentation, it was always a question that I didn't want to stand there and be a salesman for Mercedes-Benz, right? Otherwise, you guys will think, what is the way always talking about? I'll just give a simple example to answer your question. If I were to now tell you that we did a beta testing for about 900,000 users using ChatGPT and bringing it into the car, right? It was rolled out in the US market. Not still rolled in the European market because in the EU there are a lot of languages and languages are a barrier, right? And when you bring in AI, you always have to be careful because many times there's, AI can basically fudge data. And in EU they are like very conscious about it, right? So while AI can be a trend, but if you want to bring that trend and disrupt something in the car. Because today you could just be satisfied to say, okay, you ask a question to the car and the car answers it, you're happy. But if you really want to make it better, if you really want to relate with the customer, if you want to bring a wow factor, then you could do this. So it's a question of understanding the trend, but also able to, like I said, map the technology to something you can change inside the car in terms of experience and you create a factor for the customer. Does that make sense to you?
And I just want to add to that. Disruption doesn't mean not following trends. Disruption is how do you take a trend and do it in a way that you make it your own. If you talk about ChatGPT or AI now, AI तो कब से था यार? Everyone has been using AI for the longest period of time. It's about how ChatGPT leveraged large language models and made it disrupted the entire industry. So it's not mutually exclusive.
Good evening. I'm Akshaya Griharan. It was a great presentation I had. I learned so much from all of you. So one of the reasons for disruptive innovation is that there is a lot of industries are very myopic in their approach. It was mentioned in Marketing Myopia, which was written by Harvard professor. So my question was, how do we strategize to make sure that a particular company is not very myopic in its view, whether it be something that's just starting up or a company that already has a set view of how they want to approach something.
Okay, is that question to any particular person or
No,
anyone?
it's open
Okay.
to the panel.
Whoever wants to take it, please go ahead.
It's a very good question because just I started to say, I've been sitting for a long time. So, you see, to be aware that there is an option of strategic myopia is a first point of awareness. I think companies need to be aware of that. That whatever you're thinking, the boundary lines that you're creating for yourself, how or the guardrails, to what extent it is you're limiting yourself or you're extending your own vision. And my own personal take on that is that I tell my people and also follow it. I look at startups, what they are doing, and I bring that into the strategy because the startups around the world, the young thinking minds, they are the ones who are disrupting. If we are looking at what is it that they are thinking of, what is it that they are putting up, it gives a lot of cues about what is going to happen in the world tomorrow. They were very interesting, recently there was a study by Harvard, and they said that there are 3 things that you should look for when you are trying to get your ideas. One is what US is doing, because and talking about India, many things that US is doing is something that will come in waves to the rest of the world and to India as well. Second is, what is it that the government is working on? And whatever the government is working on, it is going to be implemented through various strategies and various roles. Third point, and very interestingly, is that many of the companies and actually entrepreneurs are looking at Google Analytics. What are the search words that are coming up in Google? And that is giving an idea of what is it that could come up as the next solution or the pain point, whatever you may call it, and to look at that. So I'm saying it to be aware of strategic myopia and to try to overcome it, consciously is something that every organization will have to do. That's a good question. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone present in this auditorium. I'm Rohan Bachania, student of XIM MBA and BA batch of 2020-2025. I have a question that is open to the panel. When thinking about disruptive thinking or non-traditional approaches of business management, I believe there is always a risk associated for any entrepreneur. So how do you manage that risk?
Well, the risk that you anticipate is in terms of your future action, because presently you know what your action you are going to take, and tomorrow
what would be the results of action in the arena of economic activities, geopolitical situation, various dynamics, whether that action will succeed or fail, that's the type of risk. Like the example I have given, the type of action at our company we are taking that we get into in a large way into green hydrogen. But when you take such action, you should have a reading of the future. I mean, you should properly analyze though nobody can predict future, but you should have a conviction about what's happening. I mean, how are the things going to pan out in future? For example, if someone is coming up with a coal-based power plant, let's say in US or Europe today, probably that would be a big action. I mean, it might fetch few dollars more in terms of your energy sales, but going forward, 2 or maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years down the line, probably you have to shut down that unit. So you have to have a proper reading of what's happening around the world and how the geopolitical situation, the economic situation, the transitions and other things under your market conditions, how they are changing, and where are you placed in that, and what is your capacity to absorb the risk if that happens. For example, again coming back to the example which I've given on the green hydrogen, probably a company like Air Products can take the type of risk that you've taken because it has got a solid basis. But a startup taking that type of risk at this point of time, probably the risk of, if there is a failure, then it will be devastating for them. So depending, you have to, to summarize, you have to read the future in the context of the various geopolitical situations, the economic activities and other things, and you have to evaluate your organization, your company in that situation, in that scenario, and then only probably that would give you a sense that whether you should take that sort of risk or you should not.
Just one line I'll add to that. For an entrepreneur, as well as for any organization today, many times not taking a risk is a risk. Let's understand that.
Good evening. I'm Abhilash Mishra from XIM MBA batch of 23-21. It was a very nice session hosted by the panelists. My question is specifically to Mr. Vinod sir. Basically, sir, currently the trend of hydrogen vehicles, hydrogen fuels and power vehicles is currently on the rise, with Toyota having launched its own vehicle, and it will begin the commercial production by 2025. So currently we don't see any such news from Mercedes as such venturing into that domain of hydrogen powered vehicles, portraying more into the green energy sector. We don't get those news often. So what do you think? How can Mercedes in the near future dive into that sector as well and progress as such?
Thank you, Abhilash, for the question. Right? And pardon me for the long answer. So this is a discussion I think I was just having with Ajay to understand. I kind of took the same example that you said, that it's just not Toyota, but if you see the entire Japan automotive space, they are moving away from EV and they are moving into hydrogen. Right? To give you a perspective, we started working on hydrogen cars way back in 2017. But you also know that the auto industry is an extremely capital-intensive industry. So the question for us, or as a company, or as a strategy, was always to say whether you put money in hydrogen, you put money in EV, you make autonomous cars, or you put your money in cloud. So typically, when you do the math, and I think you guys are that way, finance guys, we should be talking to you about this, but technically, when you do this numbering game, right, you clearly understand where you put your money, what is the risk associated with it, and what is the return associated with it. So somewhere you also understood that the fuel cells or the hydrogen technology, as what it was called, is an extremely complex technology, right? And again, the question is, you make a car, who's going to do the infrastructure? The EV cars that you today speak about in India, technically, I think we can give you the numbers right away. We are tipping at about 8,500 charging stations. For a country like India, 8,500 charging stations, primarily for four-wheelers. Would you take a car on a long drive? Right? You have the answer. So likewise, it's easy to invest in technology, but if the infrastructure around the technology does not develop, it's always going to be a problem. So it's not that Mercedes did not venture into it, it is not that the other automakers are not interested in it, but the question always is, when does it become cheaper, right? Today, the infrastructure around is getting ready for EVs. The raw materials are not very pricey as it used to be before. The companies are okay to have a lesser profit per car on EV, but because they can offset it in the IC cars, they are still running. Right? Don't ask me again how Tesla is making its money, I can't give you an answer, but this is how it is. So, to give you a final answer, technology is available for most of the companies, but I think they probably will wait for the right time to take it deeper and hand it over to the customers. Right?
Okay, guys, in the interest of time, I know we can go on all night, but we'll just take one last question before we wind up. So one last question.
Good evening, sir. My question is to Vinod sir only. Everyone knows that Mercedes-Benz is a premium car brand. So with a car like Vision EQXX that you mentioned in the PPT, so with a plethora of features, on what parameters will you judge the performance in the market, in the global markets of that car, and what will be your strategy if it doesn't perform up to the mark?
Well, the tagline of the company, Mercedes-Benz, says best or nothing. Right? So if it is best or nothing, there is no question of it failing. Right? But going back to the question that you asked me about performance, I think I'm told it's a story that again stays inside the nose. Right? So that car, when it was actually a challenge given to the production engineers because they were asked not to invent a new battery technology into it. So somebody asked me disruptive innovation, maybe I have the story to you, right? So the story goes like this: that when the CEO of the company asked the engineers to put in a car, they had to use the existing battery technology and still have a range of 1,000 kilometers. And that's where neuromorphic computing came into the car because they were able to use that compute power to optimize every ounce of charge inside the car, do the load management to ensure that the car really lasts 1,000 kilometers. So for us, it's not about EQXX having a range of 1,000 kilometers, but to have the technology behind the car to commercialize the cars that are going to have the customers. EQXX is more like it might or might not really see the production of the day because the car is like a really wonderful car. You go through it to see what all features it has got, right? But technically for us, the breakthrough was the creation of technology, the understanding of how an EV car will perform, the challenges that the drivers have, and take all of that know-how and use that to put into the series production cars that you will see in the next few years even coming into India, where at the end of the day, we are able to live up to the expectations. When we say one charge 500 kilometers, the car has to last that 500 kilometers. I think that is a benchmark of performance that we want to target. And that's where I think the validation of those performance parameters will not be done by the company, but by the customers, and the reviews will speak about it. Right? Thank you.
Okay, we near the end of this session. Before I hand it back to the organizers, my own thoughts and strategy and a quick summary. In theory, there is no difference between theory and practice. But in practice, there is. That is very obvious from the way in which these speakers spoke today. There are a lot of things you will learn over the 2 years that you are here at XIM and within the 4 walls of the classroom. A lot of theory, many of us will also bring in a lot of practice. But when it comes from practitioners like the ones that you've seen today, you realize that there is theory and there is practice, and then these two may not be the same. And somewhere between the gap there is a bridge. The bridge is by these kind of bodies organizing one place like the one today. So we should be in a position, therefore, to appreciate the kind of value that this intervention brings into the lives of a B-School student. Give them a round of applause for their participation. And before I close, I also hope that each of you have had an opportunity to see our students at close quarters, to understand what we are all about, and we are very happy to host you this evening. We hope that you have a wonderful stay here, and thank you very much for so nicely and kindly coming and being a part of this event. Thank you for that. I'll hand it now to the secretary.
I would like to thank our eminent speakers for responding to the students' questions. Your insights have bridged the gap between industry and academia, and I'm sure our students have taken a valuable lesson from it.
Constrat has been hosting an online quiz for the past 2 days across its social media handle to test the expertise of the students in the field of business strategy by the name of Midnight Stratonomics, followed by an offline grand finale event. The competition this year has been extremely cutthroat.
It is now time to reveal the winners of Midnight Stratonomia 2023, and I would like to invite them on the stage to get their certificates from our esteemed speakers. Our first runner-up for the event is Monangi Adinay and B. Sharad Kumar. I will request Suvarna and Aditya to come forward to give them their certificates. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And now, for the winners of the event, I would like to invite Rajeshwari Thakkar and Amrita Mohanty, and I would request Sarana ma'am and Mr. Chair to come forward and take their certificate.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. As a token of gratitude, we would now like to honor our esteemed guests with a memento. I request our honorable guests to accept this token of our delight and respect. I would now like to invite Hamad Murtaza, the coordinator of Constrat, to render the vote of thanks.
Hi everyone. So we hope that you had learned a lot from today's session. So starting from the speaker, first of all, Suparna ma'am, you have been very cooperative since the day we are interacting with you. Thank you for coming. Ajay sir, you precisely, we invited you at a very short notice, but we were excited to welcome you back to XIM, and we were really happy when you accepted our invitation. Really thanks to you. Prana ma'am, despite your health issues, we know that you were going through some health issues in your family and with yourself, but still you accepted our invitation. We are really grateful that we were able to hear your views on the topic. Vinod sir, despite your busy schedule, as we got to know, you were again and again in communication with us to make things in a more streamlined manner. So I thank you for this. Francis sir, he has been the backbone of this event. For everything we went to him and we rushed to him, and he has been really supportive. So Francis sir, thanks a lot. Apart from that, all the faculties, esteemed faculties who are coming, who are sitting in front, we are really thankful to you that you took out time for us and you gave us your time. I would also like to thank Career Advisory Services, Illuminatics, the media PR cell of XIM, Excellence for providing their support to us. A very happily, I would like to tell you that we have got one of our Constrat alum of 18 batch among us, Mr. Ankit Anupam, and he was very grateful that he came to us for this event. Thank you, Ankit, for accepting our invitation and being present between us. In the last, I would like to thank Ramesh Miner for his support, and all the support staff for everything. With this, I would like to thank the students also to basically making this session interactive. And I hope that we will be organizing such events again, and we'll be in touch with the panelists for future events like this. Thank you. Thank you everyone.
Thank you everyone for your gracious presence, and now I would like the students to stay back while the speakers take our leave. Everyone, please maintain silence and just stay well.
My Instagram is hacked. नहीं है मेरा Insta.